Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar from Mary H. Weiser Food Allergy Research Center at the University of Michigan. We've created this monthly series to help patients and their families cope with the psychological and social challenges of living with food allergy. As the licensed clinical social worker on staff here at the U of M Food Allergy Clinic, I meet with all of our patients and provide them with skills and the tools they're going to need to manage the stress, anxiety, all of the challenges of navigating school, socializing, dining away from home, going to college, being out in the world and the workplace. My role was established through a generous gift from the Weiser Food Allergy Research Center, where advanced biomedical research into the origin and treatment of food allergy takes place every day. The center, founded only 5 years ago, recently was named a Discovery Center of Distinction by the advocacy group FAIR. We were added to FAIR's prestigious network of research institutions. Our clinic, whose physician scientists partner with the research center, is one of only a handful nationwide to have a full-time food allergy counselor. You can learn more about the Weiser Center, its founders, its faculty, and the scientific work being done every day by visiting uofmfoodallergy.org. Please contribute today by sending your questions using the Q&A function. I want to talk about what's on your mind. This is a wrap-up of the webinars that we've done and the information we've been talking about this year. So this is a reminder of some of the strategies and tips we've talked about, and also to get those really terrific resources on your mind and at your fingertips so that you can use them. So we're interested in what questions came up for you this year. What could we address today? How could we point you in the right direction with good resources? So, Melissa, could you start our slide deck? Thank you.
Kim, your video is off, just in case you wanted to start it.
Yeah, I'm not able to start it.
Okay.
It says I can't start it, so.
Okay, we'll figure it out. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so good thing we've got slides. So let's talk about living confidently with food allergies. To summarize, we really want to look at what is needed to be able to help parents and their food allergic children really live confidently, to navigate all of the challenges that they come across, from the time of diagnosis through moving into the workplace and beyond as an adult. So as we look at living confidently with food allergies, we want to become a parent coach. So at the point of diagnosis, I talk with parents about this role, assuming the role of becoming a parent coach. So you are the first model of how the food allergies are going to be managed and your family's attitude and thought about what's possible. So I really want to remind you of the resources available to help empower you in your role as parent coach. That includes using really good coping strategies, getting yourself help and support for the anxiety and stress you feel trying to manage and keep your child safe. We know that there's a high parental burden of stress on food allergic parents. So it's really important that you look at what will it take for me to be able to support myself throughout this process? Who can I connect with? What good resources can I turn to? Always remember, as dealing with food allergy, that ups and downs are normal. There will be highs and lows. There will be unexpected things. Even though you're doing everything that you can and that you are planning and preparing and anticipating, you might have an accidental exposure. There might be a cross-contamination. So these ups and downs, we need to look at for what is the growth opportunity when those happen, when things didn't go as we hoped. What is the growth opportunity and how can we make something really important of that so that you feel even more prepared and skillful? So when I talk to parents and kids with food allergies, it's really important, if there's been an anaphylactic reaction, for them to really look at, okay, what happened? What did I take from it? How can I move forward with even more confidence and feel more skillful? What's your peer support looking like these days? Do you need to find a group to connect with other parents who are going through the same things that you are? Do you need to find something online, or are there other parents, at school or in your community? How can you get support to hear what other parents are doing? What are other families doing to adapt to different situations? Like, during the pandemic, how are they continuing to practice the skills that their child will eventually need to be able to dine out or to socialize, to eat at other people's houses, to be away from them? So what creative ways can you learn from other people and share what you're learning? We want to normalize and validate our own experiences, because we will feel better if we realize other people are going through the same things, and maybe they tried something that worked. Maybe we tried something that worked, and we can share those ideas. We tell parents it's so important to put on your own parachute first. You want to manage your own anxiety and your feelings about the food allergy diagnosis. We really stress this theme of careful, not fearful. So one of Kim's favorite things for 2020 is for everyone to remember that our emphasis is on being careful, not fearful. So preparation, planning, problem solving. That all helps us to be careful, but we don't want to live in fear. You don't need to live in fear. We want to empower your child, but you're going to have to empower yourself first. Whatever you model is what they're going to pick up on. So we're going to talk more about some of the places you can turn to get great support around anxiety and stress management. So how living confidently with food allergies, remembering the resources we're going to look at are about preparing for new situations. How are we always preparing, planning for the next thing? How do we gain the strategies and skills? So the websites, the books, and the apps are going to all help you be problem solvers, practice for the next challenge, for the next developmental stage, and plan for success. So let's just start from the beginning. One of my favorite things that I refer patients to all the time when we have patients with new diagnosis. So the parents are really are the person who we're helping to prepare at that point. Often the diagnosis happens when they're babies. So I always turn parents toward the FAIR newly diagnosed packet. If you're a new parent to this, and if you've not checked out the newly diagnosed packet, please go to FAIR's website. First, we'll refer to FAIR's website many times because it's fantastic. It has all the necessary information in one place from time of new diagnosis through college, workplace, and beyond. But that newly diagnosed packet that you can download, and it's in English and Spanish, it is a fantastic reference, not just for you, but share it with your friends, share it with family, share it with people that your child's going to be spending time with. Sometimes I talk with people, and it's really at the beginning about communicating the importance of taking the allergy very seriously, that it can be life-threatening. It's not a food sensitivity or an intolerance, and that sometimes parents express a concern that maybe extended family, people who are caring and concerned, but maybe lack understanding. If you can point them to this resource, it helps reinforce what you're trying to express and gives them some really great reminders, checking labels, how to put things into place so that when your child is with them, they're being really careful, but they're also educating themselves, so they start to feel more competent and skilled at what you're talking to them about and what needs to be done. So this goes to put your mask on first. Get informed, look for the sources of support that you feel you need at this point. So when you're newly diagnosed, that you're at a different point than when your child is going to college. We need different supports at different times. One of the great places we point parents is the No Nuts Moms groups. So the No Nuts Moms groups you can find them on Facebook in your area. So we know we have an audience that's not just in Michigan today with us. So look for the No Nuts Moms chapters that are in your area. Of course, you can participate with anyone, and now everything is virtual, but those groups are a fantastic source of reliable and accurate information. They're vetted. They are found on the FAIR website as well. So the Food Allergy Research and Education organization is FAIR when you hear me refer to that. So FAIR also vets support groups, and they have lists of support groups that they've looked at and that they can reliably refer to. So those groups are going to be have facilitators, other parents who really understand food allergy, and they're fantastic sources of information. A lot can come out of that. It's also a place that you can connect your child to, find peers in the same, maybe with some of the same allergies, or who are navigating developmental challenges ahead of your child. So for example, I often get requests, middle school kids want to talk to perhaps a high school kid about how it was to go to high school, how they navigated that, how did they deal with, you know, different aspects of that experience. High school kids may want to talk to somebody who's in college. How did they live on their own? What's it like living in the dorm? How did you eat in the dorm? What kinds of things do I need to know? So the No Nuts Moms groups are a fantastic source of also connecting. You could reach out and say, I have a 12-year-old who's really interested in talking to an older person who's gone to high school and would be willing to talk and share some tips, because we're always looking for ways to build that confidence. And we do that by hearing from other people who have been there, and then hearing, what might I need to think about? How can I prepare? How can I feel more ready? They'll share with you what their family did, how they learned, what went well, what didn't. So our webinars since May have really focused in on these different topics. So refer to our May and June webinar for great tips on where to start if you're more in the newly diagnosed and just adjusting to life with food allergies. So take a look. As always, we're building a video library on our YouTube channel, and those are there for you as references. You can also point family, people that you're trying to educate to that YouTube channel and ask them, check it out so that you know what I'm talking about, and you can be educating yourself too. These webinars too, remember, are designed, you can watch them with your child. So you can watch them as a way to prepare yourself to respond to questions that will come up, and modeling as a parent coach. But also, a lot of the webinars are designed for kids to watch. So our webinar last month had 2 young adults. They were talking specifically to our young adult audience about things that they've learned, things that they would want other people to know as they're coming into college and the workplace. So after newly diagnosis might come sort of, what do we do to go to preschool? What do I need to do if my child is going to be in the care of someone else? So if your child has a caregiver, or it's just time to go to school and they've been home with you or with trusted family, that's really a time that parents have some increased concern. So we did a webinar with our fabulous nurse, Nancy, our food allergy educator nurse. She was a school nurse for many years. Check out that segment if you're interested in, how do I navigate the having my child be in the care of someone else? What do I need to ask? What do I need to share with them? How do I educate with them? How do we have good communication around the things that they need to know? So Nancy really addressed these things, and I want to refer you back to some fantastic resources that are there for you. At that point, check out foodallergy.org. They have a whole section on 504 plans. And if you don't know 504 plans, so food allergy is a covered under law. There are accommodations, and those can be written into the 504 plan. So those can be discussed ahead of time with schools, and that can be in place following your child throughout their education. So these are examples of those 504 plans. It might give you some food for thought, and then to start some conversations. We also, whenever there's going to be a change to a caregiver outside of the home, whether it's school or going to daycare, for example, have a meeting or just a conversation with your child's allergist. Make sure you have an updated food allergy action plan. So if you ever see the food allergy action plan, what we're referring to is, it really spells out specifically what the allergies are, what the symptoms are, how to treat. So sharing that copy of that food allergy action plan with anybody who will be with your child. So we tell people, carry the food allergy action plan with the medications, so the epinephrine and the Benadryl, along with the food allergy action plan. Make copies for anybody so that they can become acquainted with reminded what are the allergies, what are the symptoms they would look for, how would they treat them. So for yourself, that's a great place to start. When is the last time we had a conversation with our allergist? Do we have that updated plan? Do I need to renew medications before school starts? Often there's a school nurse or some designated person at the school who can talk with you about how does your school handle food allergy. I know right now there's a lot of remote learning. We won't always be in this situation. And if you're thinking forward, how do I navigate when my child does go to school? So reach out to the school, talk with them about what their policies are, how have they worked with other families, how do they handle whether it's elementary school, middle school, or high school. How do they work with kids with food allergies? You know, where do they eat lunch? What kinds of foods are allowed where? It will help you to feel empowered and to understand and to start building that relationship. Talk with your child's teacher or teachers before school starts. Something that's really important is have a treat box kept at school with safe treats for your child so that as things come up, there's unexpected treats at school, parties, celebrations, there's always a safe treat that your child can eat so that they don't accidentally ingest something that they shouldn't have. And it also gives them something that they know is there for them, even if it's different than what the other kids are eating. They still have a safe food that's special for them. So resources, foodallergy.org, really check out the 504, the information on that. Food Allergy Canada, Living with Allergies. So they have a fantastic website. And really take a look. They talk about school. They talk about navigating many aspects of food allergy. So if you've never looked at foodallergycanada.ca, check it out. And these resources will be shared with you in a follow-up email. So let's continue, as the next step here might be transitioning to college or living on your own, being in the workplace. So for those who are anticipating, you know, how do people make the transition? There are some excellent resources. And our November webinar featured 2 young adults, one who's a senior in college now, and one post-graduation living and working on his own, talked about living independently as an adult with food allergies. So they both really stress that transition to college can be made easier by knowing who to contact. Know that you can contact the Services for Students with Disabilities office. Again, food allergy is a covered disability. You can have accommodations. So each college campus handles that differently in terms of how much they may bring this up with you, but you can bring it up yourself and say, so how are food allergies handled on your campus? Who can we meet with? What can be put in place? What accommodations are available? And they can really range. So part of what you're also looking at is vetting that school. Is it the right place? Are they going to work with you? Are they prepared? Do they have good policies in place? Dining services is another great place to ask to speak to a representative. When you're making college tours in the future, you want to visit with somebody in dining and in housing. Talk to them about how things are handled, what you need to know. You'll gain a lot of information about how food is labeled, how much food is available that doesn't have, you know, the big 8 allergens, and how do kids with food allergy navigate what's available. What questions does your family have? So you can start those conversations. Foodallergy.org has a fantastic section all just on preparing for college. There's also a college checklist. So check out that November webinar. We named a lot of really important tips and strategies that from those 2 young adults, their lived experiences, to really what they know now and wish they had known then. So check out Allergic Living also has a fantastic downloadable e-magazine, and it is on anxiety and managing anxiety with a lot of tips and strategies, interviews with kids with allergies, as well as their parents, allergists, and counselors. So Allergic Living has a guide they've put together on anxiety, but it really covers, the stress that comes up around the different developmental stages. And so if you have never seen that or never downloaded it, you can do that. $7.99. The Allergic Living Guide they've compiled fantastic information for you. So when we're looking at, our teens, our young adults, if that's the stage you're at, remember that there's some really clear messaging that we're trying to give our teens over and over and over. And I compiled an acronym, SAFE, that you can use when you're speaking with your kids. So SAFE, S, we want them to speak up. We want them to talk about their food allergy with their friends, their teachers, their coworkers, anyone they're going to be around. We want to normalize that for them, where they can practice moving beyond any embarrassment or feeling awkward about talking about their food allergies. The young adults in November on the webinar really talked about how they both dealt with that and what they would say to younger people. So S, speak up. And as a parent coach, you're talking with them about how are you going to learn to do that? Let's practice that at home. Let's role model. Let's have some role play where they can pretend to be in different scenarios where they're speaking up. A, ask. We want to reinforce the message. You always need to ask. Ask about the ingredients every time you eat, even if you've eaten it before. So when you're out to eat at a friend's house or here at home, if something seems unfamiliar, read the label, ask. Manufacturers can change. The way a food is produced can change. It's always good to double check. So kids are really good about this when they're younger. We see that a pattern start with our teens where maybe they don't ask. They just assume it's fine, but they don't want to speak up. They feel awkward or embarrassed. And sometimes there's some denial around having food allergy and needing to be consistently inquisitive and verifying. So the F in SAFE is flag. Be mindful. What are the frequent dangers? So at this point in time, they're navigating things like drinking, alcohol use. How does alcohol play in with my food allergies? What might be the impact for me? So we know our allergists have conversations with our teen patients really around what do you need to know in terms of how that can impair your judgment and how alcohol often contains the allergens, and kids don't realize that. They don't think about that, but it might have wheat, nuts, dairy. So alcohol for people with food allergy, there are real safety consequences to think about. And how are you going to be talking with them about how to be mindful of these dangers? How are they going to make smart decisions? How are they going to think ahead of time? So E in our SAFE is epinephrine. Carry it, have it with you all the time. Know how to use it. Don't delay your treatment. So of course, every parent's fear is that they will speak with their child throughout the time that their kid is living with them, and then they're going to go, be more independent in high school and college, and they're not going to carry and they're not going to use it. We know that statistically we see more risky behaviors in teens. So we're talking to them from the time they're young, but really recognizing how are we going to make that easy? So carrying it, how are you going to make that so it's just part of their everyday life? Do you need to use something like a flip belt that you just carry? It's on your body. It's like oh, I can't think of the word. A flip belt is just there under your shirt. No one's like a fanny pack, except you don't see it. And you can carry, if you have an inhaler, if you, you can carry your cell phone, you can carry your keys, you can carry your inhaler, you can carry your epinephrine. So would something like that be helpful to help make this routine and make it feel more doable for your teen? So when we look at some of my overall favorite things, and I'm going to go into some more detail with some of these things like the mindfulness, what we're looking at for general allergy information, I really want you to check out the foodallergy.org site and Allergic Living. For those FPIES families, we're not forgetting about you. Two great sites for FPIES families are fpies.org and FPIES University. So fpies.org that is our reference point. We point parents to get that initial information about how to manage FPIES. So for those of you who aren't sure what FPIES is upon introduction of the early foods, when children have a reaction to those first foods, but it's not an IgE-mediated food allergy. It is more about an immature gut, and the symptoms are later, maybe 3 hours or so later, when food is being digested. There can be lethargy, drop in blood pressure, and profuse vomiting. So it is a different reaction than with the IgE-mediated. So with FPIES, families can refer to FPIES University. There's some fantastic videos and really segments on the frequently asked questions. So it's really teaching you to be an FPIES parent and navigating. The hope is that as the child grows, they grow out of the FPIES and they're not living with allergies. But during that time, there's a lot that you need to know to navigate the introduction of food and the stress around that. So at our clinic, families with FPIES work closely with our nutritionist, Liz Hudson. So you're going to want to refer to our webinar with Liz. She really talked a lot about FPIES and also picky eating when kids have developed some discomfort or reluctance to eat. So she really points to a lot of great tips and strategies for you that would be helpful in that regard. So we're going to talk a little bit about mindfulness and my favorite places for you to get some fantastic practices for your kids and yourself. So the reason mindfulness is so important with food allergy is we know that there's a lot of stress and anxiety that comes along with living with food allergy. There's uncertainty. There is the need to constantly be prepared and to anticipate. And there's a sense of uncertainty. Even if I do all the right things, will I really be okay? Will something unexpected happen? So you need to have great tools to manage the stress around that. So places that I send parents and kids for learning more about mindfulness and guided practices. The Stop, Breathe, Think has fabulous meditation for kids that you can do together. Make it a part of your everyday life to stop for a few minutes, to just breathe and slow down. Kids need to be taught that they do need to think about things, they need to be prepared, but when overthinking is leading to panic, we need to have some mechanisms to be able to stop, slow down, come back to our ability to make good decisions and to think things through so we don't just stay in fear. Mindful.org has a whole section just for mindfulness for kids that you can do together. They're guided meditations. They range from 3 minutes to 30 minutes. They're great for sleep. They're great for if there's stress around virtual learning right now and navigating just all the changes that we're all going through right now. So we'll talk more about mindfulness. Some apps I like to point people to is the Stop, Breathe, Think app. They have one just for kids. They also have Headspace now has an app just for kids around meditation, mindfulness, how to gain the strategies that you need to deal with fear and to not be overcome with fear. So this is Allergic Living's Food Allergy Anxiety Guide that I spoke about, and a fantastic source of information. So our patients at Michigan all get a complimentary copy because we had a generous donation, a family who wanted us to be able to give this to every family who's diagnosed with food allergy and navigating that through our clinic. So check out the Food Allergy Anxiety Guide because it's just something you will refer to over and over and over again that addresses your concerns, things that come up for you as a parent, but also hearing from other kids who are talking about, how they dealt with their stress, when stress turned into food allergy related anxiety, how did they start to navigate that? So the young man on the cover is an actor and he lives with food allergies. So they have an interview where he really talks about how has this played out in his life, what has he learned, and his family, how have they learned to adapt and adjust. So we have an audience question. Can we do a mindfulness practice as a family or should it be done individually? You can absolutely do both. So mindfulness can be done. You could play a guided meditation and you sit together and practice. You're also modeling to your child that we're just sitting calmly, we're learning to practice coming back and just breathing and staying in the present moment. So you're normalizing that everybody has stress and we all need to have ways to cope with it. And mindfulness is something that we can do when we're young and adults do. So it's just a way to come back to the present moment, to come out of your thinking mind, and to be able to notice that our minds generate a lot of thoughts that aren't always true and they aren't always useful. And so practicing together is a great way to demonstrate to your child that this is something that's going to be important to you to manage what's happening now in life and as you get older, that everybody needs that. We have another great question. How do we deal with anxiety in pre-verbal children? Are we making them anxious? So I hear that a lot from our parents. I'm worried that I've made my child more anxious about food, or they're getting more reluctant to eat. And did I do that to them? And my answer is really, it is a tightrope of you're walking to try to balance needing to be honest and straightforward and share information while also managing your own fears. So when you're talking and communicating and sharing information, it's necessary and important. And sometimes kids experience some increased fear around that because they've had to think about things that, can feel scary. Like you're talking to them about, we need to practice with the trainer in case you ever had a reaction, and we need to use your epinephrine. We need to know how to use it. So practicing with the trainer, that can make kids feel more anxious, but over the long run, they're going to feel less worried because they know what to do. They know how to treat their symptoms. They know how to recognize their symptoms. So it's a balancing act. You need to have conversations ongoing. You need to talk about difficult things, But the way that you do it is it's in the manner of delivery. We want to try to do so with just a calm, matter-of-fact tone so that they pick up on, yes, there are things we have to be prepared for, things that we have to be really conscious of, but we don't have to be scared all the time. If we follow the plan, if we prepare, and if we ask questions and clarify, you can be safe and you can do anything that you want to do. We do have a great link, how do pre-verbal children, how they might communicate a allergic reaction. And we also have some great links on how to deal with kids who, so younger children who might be experiencing anxiety. It's really just you're modeling to them, acknowledging, this is how we do things. You can trust that the adults, we're going to keep you safe. We're here to help you, and we're going to make sure everything's okay. And you're okay right now. So you're modeling that safety and stability, and they're safe, but that when they hear you talking about their allergies, or they see you, packing up the medication or giving it to grandma and grandpa if they're going to be with them, that's what we do. Just like we put our shoes on and our jacket on, we also make sure you have your medication. So you're just in that, we sharing information in the same way that you might have taught, or will teach them how to cross a road safely, how to ride a bike. So initially, they might feel nervous about these things or recognize there's a little bit of danger, but you practiced with them, talked about it with them, and then showed them how to do it. So another great question, thank you. Are there resources for parents who disagree about the level of caution, vigilance around food allergy? So I don't know if this question pertains to co-parenting situations. I can speak to that. We certainly do see parents often who are co-parenting, and we'll hear from one household or the other that there's some disagreement around the way one household might be more cautious, the way they do things compared to how the other household might. And the way we really ask people to look at that is understanding that what you have control of is your own household. You have control of being prepared and being vigilant and teaching your child to do the same. So you make sure that, so as your child gets old enough, they know they can remind people, where's my medication, or did we remember to bring it from home? We don't want kids to have to be responsible or to be, taking on adult responsibilities, but there are situations in which we need to just help them to remember, okay, remember when you're at dad's, you always bring your medication, and when you're with mom, yep, remember when you're here with mom, we always bring our medication. So you're helping to build in the habits and the routines that will serve them. So whether they're at grandma or grandpa's, mom's or dad's, whether they're at the neighbors, whether they're at school, whether they're with their coach at practice, you're starting to teach them, young, that, okay, just like you put your shoes and socks on, I want to make sure this is where dad keeps the medication. See how I'm packing it in the bag. Do you see I'm putting your snacks in? This is what we do every time. So even though there might be some level of disagreement about how things are done, try to have communication, share resources, let the other party know how you're doing things and why you are concerned. We certainly encourage, ask to have an appointment together. where you can talk with the allergist or ask, so with the allergist that you're seeing, could you share that same information? Mom wasn't able to be here today. Dad brought the patient. Could you share that same information with mom so she hears what you shared with me? Food allergy action plans, making sure both parties have them. But essentially, you only have control over what happens in your own household and trying to share information and teaching your child to become aware and independent in terms of managing and reach out to your team. Reach out if there's somebody like me at the clinic who can help facilitate conversation. I certainly do that with families, or ask if there's information or resources that we can share, because I think it's just trying to have that open communication. And I know it's not always easy. These situations are not always easy to navigate. So please keep your questions coming in. We'd love to hear from you. So on that topic of stress management, I really want us to remember some ways to think about this. So when we talk about stress management, we're talking about building our resilience. So identifying what is and is not in your control, understanding what worry thinking is, how it's created, and how we can reframe our thinking. So think of, perfect segue, think of things outside of your control, think of the things I can control. Things outside of my control, anything other people are doing, other people's words, other people's thoughts, how people react. Things in my control, my thoughts, my emotions, my efforts, how I react, my actions, my behavior. So if you're dealing with imperfect situations, things that you feel are adding to your stress burden, really looking at where can I put my energy into helping myself see things in a helpful and positive way, and taking actions that are going to make me feel more capable, competent, and safe. Let's talk about resources for worry thinking, resources for how to really handle overall the need to have some effective way to look at the worries that can arise with food allergy, both for parents and for kids. So we think of cognitive reframing. There are some fantastic tools. So again, Anxiety Canada has, they call them cognitive reframing, they're coping cards. And you can just print them out, and it really helps you to get down on paper, what is my worry thought? Is it completely true? How can I say something to myself that is more helpful and more accurate? So anything that you can do that is something that you can look at with your child and say, okay, I've been hearing you talk about having that particular worry. Let's write it down. So you can use these coping cards to walk through what the worry might be. Is it realistic? Is it actually likely to happen? And if it is something that could happen, how would you cope with it? So the coping cards help us to have preparation for things that might come up. There's thought challenging, and again, with anxiety, we look at ways to slow down, calm down, and come back to our way of thinking about things in a helpful and constructive way. So the parent as the worry coach, we want you to use the strategies and the tools to help you know how to respond to anxious children, to your teen, and to your own worry thinking. Look at, how do I respond to anxiety and worry? as a person? Generally, what are my ways to cope? And it's helpful to check in with yourself. You know, we're at that time of year where it's the end of the year. People are reflecting. We're looking at maybe our hopes and aspirations for next year. One of the things you might do is check in with yourself and say, as a parent coach, where do I feel like I could use more support? What are my concerns? Maybe now you're not at the newly diagnosed stage. Maybe it's middle school. What are some of my concerns for what new things that we'll be dealing with in the next few years? How can I get some help with that? So one of the things that we want to do is, as a parent coach, you're also their worry coach. You can help them, you can cue them to take a break, to breathe, to slow down, and to talk about what is it that they're concerned about? What are they telling themselves? Is what they're telling themselves completely accurate? Is it likely to happen? How can you help them walk themselves back if they're starting to panic about something that is not actually happening at this moment or unlikely to ever happen? Peer-to-peer support groups, we have a question about for elementary, middle, and high school kids, are they helpful? I do hear from kids that they're extremely helpful. We're hoping in this coming year, and with things being virtually, it makes it actually a lot easier for us. We're looking to put together support groups for kids elementary aged and middle school, and then high school kids having their own, to talk about specific things that are coming up for them, concerns that they have, but hearing from other people, because a lot of kids will tell me, I don't really know other kids with food allergies. And I know that it's unlikely, because 1 in 13 kids have food allergies now. That's statistically 2 kids in every classroom. But maybe kids aren't speaking up a lot about their allergy, or maybe the kids I'm talking to aren't speaking up. And so they may be unaware that how normal this is and how other kids are dealing with the very things that they are. So those peer-to-peer groups help them to normalize for each other, but they learn from each other, and it helps them to realize, well, I don't have to feel so embarrassed. I don't have to feel so awkward. A lot of other people are dealing with what I am. And I see with other people, you know, they feel like I do. And so I guess it's okay. You know, I'm not the only one. So we're certainly going to be looking at that through our clinic, how to really get the word out and to try to get some virtual support groups going where we can have conversations just informally about things that are on their mind and help them to get information, reinforce information, but also just move beyond some of their worry thinking and fears. So before we move into a mindfulness practice, I really hope that as we go into 2021, you will check out our weekly blog. We have fantastic information. Every week we have I take some aspect of what we're talking about that month in the webinar and really add more detail to that. So you'll find lots of great tips and tools and strategies. On the blog, we have a resource section and we have the posts. So on every topic, from newly diagnosed to teens to anxiety to transitions to school. So you can subscribe to our monthly webinar. You can also look at those past episodes on our YouTube channel. You can also tweet us at Food Allergy Kim. So let's talk a little bit more about how to practice mindfulness. Let's take our last few minutes and do that together. So if you're sitting and you're either the parent and you've joined us today, or you are with your child, just settling in, maybe as you're sitting in your chair, kind of feeling your feet on the floor, bring your attention to feeling yourself sitting in your chair. Just notice, what's going on in this moment. What are you aware of? Try to sit alert but relaxed. So just check in with your body. How am I feeling? Drop your shoulders. Check in. Take a deep breath. Allow your breath to inflate your stomach. Just let it. I will sometimes use the visual, pretend you're filling up a balloon. So just imagine taking in the breath and allowing the balloon to inflate, and imagine it in your mind. So take a deep breath. Let your stomach fill up with air and then slowly deflate. Bring your attention to where you feel the sensation of the breath. Just tell yourself, right now I am breathing. Right now I am safe. So bringing your attention back to your breath. Breathing in, notice, where do you feel your breath? Is it in your stomach, in the rise and fall of your chest, or the air coming in and out of your nose? Bring your attention to that physical sensation. Notice, what does it feel to breathe in? What does it feel like to breathe out? When you breathe out, you might pretend you're blowing out a birthday candle. So breathing in and breathing out slowly. Bringing your attention back. So if your mind starts thinking, wandering, just notice that and gently bring your mind back and say to yourself, right now, I'm just breathing. Bringing yourself back. Notice how each breath rises and falls like the waves in the ocean. Each breath comes and then disappears to be followed by another. Just like the waves in the ocean, they come and go. So continue to breathe, anchoring yourself back each time, feeling yourself breathe. Notice if I just slow down and bring all of my mind's focus to feeling the inhale and exhale. Just doing that for a moment or two helps you come back to the present moment. It slows things down. It helps you to come out of overthinking. And when you come back, you can ask yourself, what would be helpful now? What do I need to do now? Do I need to ask for help with something? Do I need to bring my focus to something else? Outside of worrying or thinking about something again and again and again. So what would be helpful to me right now? And this is a great thing to practice as you move through your day, both for adults and for kids. With school, with work, with demands, just coming back for a moment or two. Stop, drop into your breath, and then come back to what's going on. Please subscribe so you can be with us again. And we look forward to the different opportunities in the next year. We hope to have a roundtable with at least 3 young people that are living with allergies so that they can talk with the other kids in our audience about what their experiences have been like. We're also going to be focused on, looking at someday when we can dine out, we want to know how to do that safely. And so talking with a chef and kitchen manager about how families, what they need to know to be able to dine out safely, and how they can do that, how they can prepare, how they can communicate with restaurants, what they should look for. So on behalf of the Weiser Center, we really appreciate you being with us today and being a part of this community who learning and sharing ideas and joining together to ask questions so that everyone can learn from each other. We look forward to seeing you again next month. And we hope everyone has a wonderful end of this year, and we look forward to bright and happy things for 2021. Thank you.